Welcome to a long-awaited episode of Out of the Blank. And before we hit the 1,000, the man is back, David from Way Hot Sauce.
It's good to be back, man. Good to be here.
We've had so many deep chats since our first conversation. I think you were on 356 or something like that, right?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
You're coming up in the mid 900s now, aren't you?
Yeah, we're getting there. Slowly but surely we'll hit that 1,000 mark, and then the show's gonna disappear forever, just like Amelia Earhart in the middle of the wherever she landed.
What about that? You said that. Is that really going to be a thing? You think you'll? I mean, 1,000 straight days is pretty rotten, man. That's rough. That's a rough schedule to keep.
It's definitely, I've been kind of debating a little bit too. Mostly I think I want to move and I want to try and get this sense of life that everyone kind of, I really just want to isolate, man. I mean, from the start, when I first started talking to you, you were around 400 followers, and then you kind of reached up until you're in the 8,000s now. So, I mean, you've watched your business kind of take this social media presence. And I mean, we've gone back and forth about it. I think you messaged me, and this is something I wanted to ask you about, just the whole shift of because you're a businessman, you're a Thai aficionado.
Kind of.
Okay. But we talked about you messaged me, you said you can only follow a certain amount of people on Instagram. And I was like, what? And then
that's true.
Well, you start to realize there's the competitiveness, how it used to be, where it was a business against a business. And then that business kind of went from in person to now it's about social media. So it's about your social media presence. Everyone's trying to get their business above another person's business. But now the platforms, it's kind of you have to pay rent. And that is, you have to set up, if you're going to do Instagram shopping, they get a cutback to it. So you're not actually getting your full profit. And I'm like, man, they don't make it easy for you to be one of these entrepreneurs they always advertise about.
Well, that's right. I mean, we don't have an Instagram store, but without an Instagram presence, I don't know what that does to my sales, but it affects it dramatically. It's a way to get the word out without spending a ton of money in advertising. But they've got you, man. They've got you by the balls. They've got rules and regulations, and that makes it rough. It makes it rough.
Do you think that if social media just went away, like when Facebook and Instagram went down, do you think that it would actually, you'd see a lot more people having in person, and it would kind of revert back to how it was before the social media trend kind of took? Because I think the pandemic really opened up the door for letting that be accessible. How many people work from home permanently now because they just don't feel the need to go into work anymore?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I saw a lot of people post after that outage and said, "Hey, I'm signing off. I don't want to be prisoner to this thing." So, I mean, that's definitely a thing. I know that without those platforms, people they'd be forced to be more one-on-one, right?
Well, I think it's a great marketing tool for a product, but I just don't think everyone necessarily understood that now that we have kind of become the product in a way. I mean, if it goes down to data or if it goes down to whatever, it just seems like it's a little bit, I mean, it's fun. It's good to be on it. It's nice to have a presence on it. But I mean, for you, for instance, you got to kind of keep maintaining, especially since you built up such a following where you always have to constantly be on it, posting, liking posts, making sure you're getting this revert back. And I'm like, man, I give you so much credit for it, because I don't think I could do that, dude. I'm already posting ghost.
Well, you are doing it. You're doing it every day. But I will tell you, without the Way Hot Sauce Company, I know you have a personal account. I do. I'm not on there. I mean, if you look at my personal account, there's nothing there really. I don't get on there and I don't post things. So, I mean, if I shut down the Hot Sauce Company, social media, that's not my gig. You wouldn't be seeing me on there.
I was, yeah, because with personal accounts, for instance, I know teachers, they have to change their last name or change whatever if they have a Facebook profile or an Instagram, so their students aren't able to find them and be able to see anything that they post privately. And it comes in with academics as well too. Academics will have in their bio my tweets are my own or my personal opinions only, and that doesn't reflect my school, so they don't get in trouble. Well, I was trying to figure out because I follow a guy named Bo Burnham. He had a special on Netflix. I was like, but his name's not Bo, but everyone knows him as that. And I looked up his real name and I found his private account that he has on Twitter where it has like 200 followers, even though his main artist page has like 5.7 million. And I'm like, this is, yeah, but how much do you actually use of your private profile? I'm finding myself now using more of my private than I'm using of my public or the podcast one because there's just too much going on. It's kind of like you have a bunch of balls floating in the air, or just you're trying to juggle a bunch of things around. It's like I'd rather just be focused in on one thing, my low personal profile that nobody really cares about.
Right. I think that's a thing. I mean, the problem with it is like that guy you're talking about. If you ever, the only way to see that is to go look at it, to go search it out yourself. I mean, you'd have to do that every day to see his content on there because the way those algorithms are, like I would never see your personal stuff come up, even though we're friends. And I would have to go look at it. I would have to search you out, go and see if you're posting anything on there. And I do that with a lot of accounts that I like. I'm like, I haven't seen anything from these people. So I will search it out. And sure as shit, they're posting things, but I'm not seeing it. So they control what you see, and that isn't good either. I mean, unless you are consistently communicating with someone, like I see your out of the blank stuff because we communicate more through that forum, but otherwise I wouldn't see it.
Well,
I
the
mean,
weird
there was a for a while I wasn't seeing your stuff, your out of the blank stuff. I'm like, why doesn't that come up anymore? I have to go searching for it.
Well, like
Um,
that's part of the algorithm, but also there's a new thing, and it's probably been going on for a while, but I think it's now becoming more noticeable is that Instagram, Facebook, all these things, they'll go on your profile and they will remove certain followers that they might deem as bots. That's how they get it as bots, and they're actual people. But there's also like blacklisting as well too. There's a bunch of famous people I know that say things that are against the norm, such as like evolutionary biologists that talk about the pandemic stuff. They'll get dead named on Instagram and dead named on YouTube, where you have to type in their exact profile name. Typing in their name isn't going to get anything in there. You have to get the exact profile, the username they had to put on there. And then it's like, okay, we know you're looking for this person, so here they are, but they're not going to pop up in any listings because they don't like the things that you say. And instead of banning you or removing you, they just prefer to make sure that nobody's able to find you.
that is crazy. I think you told me about shadow banning.
Yeah.
I think back when, and I had told you they've got, like I mentioned, crazy rules and regulations. If you like too many posts, they'll shut you down. They'll shut you down for a day or two. They'll restrict your usage. And it's like, why can't I like what I like? And maybe it's just the algorithm thinking you're a bot and thinking no one likes this many posts in a day. But I don't know what the cutoff is, but they will shut you down and they will restrict your usage. And that's crazy. That doesn't
Well,
make sense.
like when I was reaching out to get guests, originally it started with Instagram. I think that's how I first got a hold of you. And it was just liking people's stuff and then sending them a message and being like, hey, you feel like being on this show? And then if you accepted the random DM, and then I eventually translated over to Twitter. Then Twitter was like following a bunch of accounts, then hoping if they followed back, I could send them a message. Then they stopped having me follow people. They put me on a ban for a week. And I was like, well, what's the point of this? And then it's like I had to make separate profiles and keep going in different directions to be able to still get the content or get the mission I was on. But I remember at points you were banned as well too, just from liking a certain amount of posts. I'm like, why am I not seeing David's
That,
posts? And it's like you've been gone for 3 days. I'm like, but you can message me. And you're like, yeah, but I can't like anybody's stuff. And I'm like, so
yeah,
why don't we just, why is it, where's the free range? I thought this was supposed to be a fun entertainment style app, but you start to notice and here's the thing is, it starts off like you're a kid with a bunch of quarters in his pocket going to the candy store for the first time. And then eventually they build toll booths. So by the time you have $1.75, you have to pay a quarter at every toll booth. Now there's like you have 25 cents left. And it's like, well, how am I going to get all the candy I want to get? It's like, well, no, here are the guidelines. And you don't notice that until you step out of the system. When you first join it and you're having fun, you're creating a new profile, it's amazing. You can do whatever you want. But then once you accidentally step out of line, it's like then now you're on their watch list where you start to notice that you're going to keep stepping out of line more and more and more and more. It's like getting your first strike or something like that. Next, you know, you're getting strike after strike after strike after strike.
Yeah, it's a good analogy. It is. I mean, for me, it's almost like my mom gave me $1.25 in quarters to go buy candy, and I spent it all and came home with a bag of candy, and she slapped me across the face and said, "Why did you spend it all?" I mean, it's you're given. They give you the platform, but then they say you can't use it all. You can't do everything you want to do.
It's those dirty little optics that everyone talks about. It's the optics
Right.
of using it to promote your business and being successful, but only if you play by our rules. If you don't play by our rules, then hey, you can't play the game.
That's that's the way it is. Yeah.
I mean, I think, yeah, they have the right to do so since it's their platform. But at the same time, it's like you sales pitched me wrong. You snuck me in, you sold me a lemon car, and then now my car doesn't work.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if they sent me a Instagram, that is. I mean, I have Facebook and Twitter accounts as well, but Instagram sent me a like a survey, and I let them have it, man. I know they don't care. Probably, I don't know. No one probably reads it, right? But I I let them know, like, why do you restrict people from doing certain things that they don't have anything to do? I mean, I'd like to know the reason. I'm sure there are reasons, but they don't have anything to do with me, and you don't let anyone know up front. That's the big deal. If you just stated, hey, uh, when you get to a point, you won't be allowed to follow any more people, and that point is 7,500 followers, then you know. But it's like you say, sell a bill of goods and then let us know as you go along. It's kind of a crappy way to do it.
Well, like for instance, like you do a lot of advertising, like good videos too for your company as well too. But don't you think like there should be like a more of like a business branded app rather than if they're going to limit it on like social media or these social kind of networking apps? They've built the basis of business though. Like everything's about products, but now it's only the products that they really sell to you. Like eventually it's going to get to a point where if you can tag one of your products, like if you get to a higher level of social influence, you'll be able to tag a product that you're putting up a picture of, and then you'll be able to market it, and then people have an easy link to it. But now they make the link so damn hard to get to that you have to go through all these different rabbit holes. And people like it's even hard to watch a video and hit the subscribe button to make sure you can still stay up on the content or hit the like button. People will be more like people will write a bad review over a good review because anger just gets people motivated to do something. But when you're trying to sell a product, you're trying to get people to get the link, like you start to notice like you might be doing some business, but compared to the social following, it's just a lot of people liking a photo compared to the actual selling of a product or all that type of things.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I like you said, I don't know. I have over 9,000 followers now, but that is not really representative of the sales I'm doing. I mean, we're selling hot sauce. It's great. I'm very happy with it. But then again, on the flip side of that coin, like I had mentioned, if you shut that off, then whatever sales level you're at drops dramatically too, because you're not in front of people every day, or at least a couple times a week, right? You're not in front of them, and they don't out of sight, out of mind.
So if I was going to ask you, what would be your prediction of what the commerce or what the business aspect of society is going to end up shifting to in the next couple of years? Where would you think it goes? Because I don't think a couple of years ago we would have thought that we would have known this much about social media. It was kind of gifted as like, here's an open paradise or a water park, like have fun. And then next thing you know, you realize you got to wait in lines. There's a process. It's like being at the M or the DMV. You're like, I'm going to get there first thing in the morning before, so nobody shows up and I can get in and out. Then you get there and there's a long line of people there. You're like, oh my God, it's 2 hours before they open. And there's already like 200 people here.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know where it goes from here. I mean, they say, I don't know what the statistic is. It's something crazy. Like every month that passes, we evolve technologically more than we have over like 50 years.
Jesus Christ.
It's that compacted. But I know that after that outage, a lot of people said, I heard a lot, I mean, speculation that social media platforms may go to subscription. So the only way you can use them is to pay. And I mean, if I'm a social media company, I mean, you're already worth so much money, but what better way to make money? Just say, hey, if you want on, it's $10 a month or whatever. And there are millions and millions of people worldwide that'll pay it.
Well, what looks like it's going to now is that C-230. It's that giant bill that puts up more censorship. And then it's
Yeah.
that sketchy line of censorship, man. Like I've talked about this a couple of times, but there was the Facebook whistleblower that came out. There's actually a lot of thought that she actually might be a government sanctioned whistleblower because she started her profile in October and she was already verified on the 5th of October. And then she already had 900 something thousand followers. So then you start to realize like they set up the algorithm to get her more follows and more links, getting more direction to her profile. And then what she's wants is the same thing against the person she's going up against, which is Zuckerberg. She's fighting against him, but at the same time, they're both for the same exact bill to be passed, which allows more censorship. Then it goes to the lines of, okay, censorship might be bad content, right? But then how do you draw the line when a company or a corporation is allowing you on their platform and you're selling a product, but it's not through them? Well, then I don't want you on my profile or I don't want you on my content anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that bill, the thing that, I mean, there's obviously pros and cons to everything, but that bill, what I think their intent is, or the main intent of it is to stop a social media platform from being able to discriminate. You know, if, like you said, if someone has a view, they make it so you can't see them, or they just shut them down. I mean, they took the president of the United States account away from him, right? They could do anything they want. Well, it's saying if you are more a product advertiser or someone putting content out that has to do with freedom of speech, you cannot limit what people do. Like a newspaper, they're subject to the same kind of governance or rules and regulations that a newspaper is. I can't go right, but I can't go out on you can't go on a newspaper and slander someone. You'll be sued if you're saying false things. If I'm out there putting a newspaper article out about Robbie Robertson and it's just not true, you have the right to sue for it. You cannot do that with social media. They can put anything they want out there.
You can't even do that with media now, man. With Fox News, whenever Fox gets sued, they classify themselves under entertainment. So the same lines as WWE, but they're not brainwashed us into thinking that. They recently dead named Joe Rogan by taking a certain drug, saying it was a horse thing. And
Yeah,
then
I heard
Joe Rogan recently just had one of the CNN medical chiefs, doctors. I forgot his name already, but he was on there and he called him out. He said, "Why did you say this on your company? You're the chief medical officer and you didn't know about this?" And he goes, "Oh no, I didn't know about this. They shouldn't have said that." But he goes, "But you work at the network. You know they said this." He goes, "Okay, maybe they did say it." And you start seeing them backtrack. And then the next day, they spent the whole day talking about that whole entire episode, trying to go over everything Joe Rogan has exposed about them. And I'm like, this is good things for just the common people to notice. Look at the bullshit. It's all just like, it's like if they lied with that, and it's been given to billions of people to treat river blindness and all these things, then what else are they lying about when it comes to Russia, when it comes to China, when it comes to whatever it is? I mean, for instance, an example I've seen now, Southwest Airlines canceled over like 10,000 something flights or something. And this was because of the mandate with the vaccine. Delta just recently said, we're not doing the mandate. And then now everyone's going to Delta. That's a good business opportunity because now people will just go to that one instead of trying to deal with Southwest. And then you're going to see Southwest change their mind. But everyone said, like, there was an article on the news that said it wasn't because of the mandate. It was, but they didn't want you knowing that a lot of people are fighting over this thing, of just this thing being, you have to take it. There's no other way. You have to do it if you want to do anything. And I think it shows the power in people, but I think the way that we get our news is necessarily needs to be held to a higher standard, just like our social media apps need to be held to a higher standard. You can't ban things that you don't know the full drastic action to. And I get the hours of content, I get the amount of people that are the influx of all these things, but I still get a random DM asking about wanting to give a dick suck. And I'm like, I don't need it. I don't, what are you talking about? So the bots still slip through. The fake content, the social media people that are saying, buy this for $24.99, or someone calls you up and says, I need your social security number. This is the agency. You're like, my social security number? Yes, place, maybe. And you're like, what? Like, what are you talking about? You know, they're not part of the social security offices, but it still slips through. So I don't see the work that they say that they're doing. You know what I mean? It seems like now they've kind of labeled the bot thing as an umbrella to just ban whoever the hell they want that might be messing with them getting their money.
Yeah, that's, yeah, point made. I mean, regardless, there's two sides to everything, but the real problem is something you mentioned. You said when the Joe Rogan situation shows the average person what's going on out there, the average person doesn't see it, man. Like, so many people don't even know about those things, you know, that without getting the information, you don't know about the information, and there's no decision to be made. You know it because you're a podcaster, so you know Joe Rogan, and you're into news, you're following news. But there are so many Americans out there that they don't know, regardless of the side they would fall on, regardless of the argument, they don't even know about the argument.
I think it's just hard because I think me and you both probably share the same quality of, like, we're in a way we're self-made, as in, like, when we have our lows, there's not a lot that we can, that other, like, these companies are not there for us when we have our lows. They're not consoling us in our dark times. They're not giving a crap about us through the, the rent, the money coming up with to make, when you were taking your crawl up before you got the business, when you were going through your life decisions and your kind of role as a person, much like how I'm going through mine right now. They're not there for that stuff, but then they have this disguise of, I'm here to help you, to make sure that nothing bad ever hurts you. And it's like, but you're not, though. You're actually making things a little bit more difficult, because just because you might stop an enemy once, but then when are you going to deem me as an enemy? You know what I mean? And it starts to get a little bit crazy when it comes into the aspect of, like, I would love it to go back to when you could actually go to a business and you could actually really see the advertising, or the things or the models were a little bit cheaper. But even trying to advertise in person now, you're going to advertise on, flip a sign in the middle of the street, whatever. Less people are going to see that than if you advertise on their device, but more people are going to interact with you if you're in person rather than if you're on social media, because then they can just scroll past it. And if they even, when they're scrolling, tap it or do anything, accidentally open it up and then close out, now that's money that is going to charge you, because that's a view and that's a click. Doesn't even necessarily mean they viewed onto the site or viewed onto your promotion that you're sponsoring.
Yeah, they're social media companies, like you say, feign having your best interest at heart. But I mean, let's be real. If I want to get a hold of you, I think I can get a hold of you inside of 10 minutes, right? Same back this way. Like, if you wanted to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me, ask me a question, and I will answer it. Try to get a hold of a social media company. It's like calling the White House and saying you want to speak with the president. You're not going to get to talk to anybody. It's not a thing. So there's no direct contact with anyone to say, hey man, like this is going on with my account. Can you help me? Forget it. There's nobody.
I
And
think
that's
that,
crazy.
well, I think it leads like you see a lot of people fighting about their kids having to wear a mask. And I'm like, I get it because the facial kind of recognition that kind of develops a little bit in a way. But doesn't that happen with us in social media or us in these apps as well too? We're not getting the full connection. We're not getting the full understanding. So you see so many things happen in different ways. I mean, if you look at your followers, how many of those people know you exactly and then also care about how you're doing? Like, for instance, like I might not like every single post because I just hate being on my phone a lot of times now. I'm spending a lot of my times painting or, you know, looking up at the sky and trying to contemplate why the hell there's a fire alarm. I get the need for it. But damn it, when the batteries are low, it sucks that it keeps beeping. I'm hearing it right now. I don't know if my mic's picking it up, but I think you start to notice that like you're putting essentially a lot of value into something that might not be deemed as a tool that should have value into your life. I get it for value for business essentials, but when is that line going to end up not being there anymore? I mean, before Facebook was a place to get together and communicate and connect with people that you used to know or you still kind of barely know, but you know you appreciate them, so you'll say happy birthday when it's their birthday, and then you'll never talk to them again. But when is that line going to be drawn where instead of being a business essential or a tool, it's now just a place to just be constantly consumed with commercials and advertisements. And then every now or every fifth photo or every fifth advertisement will be a photo of your friend who's on a vacation in Tahiti, you know?
Yeah, it's almost there. I mean, when I put a post up, I mean, I'm a company, right? I'm representing my brand, but you can tell the difference in the people that like the photo based on how it's laid out. And if it looks like an advertisement, which mine do, that's what I'm doing, right? I'm trying to put the brand out there. But if it's the bottle of hot sauce with some words next to it explaining it, no one likes that. It's just another ad that they're scrolling past. I mean, there's so many ads now and so much marketing that people are looking for the content that they like, but they're seeing ads and then they're just mistaking something I put out there as another ad. And so I try not to do that, but you can see it happening now.
When did you start Way Hot Sauce?
So, I mean, I had the Way Hot Sauce company over 20 years ago, and we make everything by hand, and it got out of control because I had distribution through grocery stores and everything else. And I got to a point where I said, this is not fun anymore. I did it for fun. It's not my full-time job. And it's too much to keep up with. So I quit. Like it's like getting burned out. I got burned out and I said, this is crazy. And the other thing I didn't like about it was to get any kind of quantity out in people's hands, you have to wholesale it. So you wholesale bottles of hot sauce very inexpensively, and then those people retail it quite expensively. So they make all the money and you do all the work. And I didn't like it. So I just said, I've had it. And then 2 years ago, thinking about Amazon and online direct marketing, like I could fire the hot sauce company back up and I can market it myself. I can sell it directly through Amazon, and we have an Amazon store. I can sell it directly through my website. I don't want to have it in stores. It's not a thing. I have it in one store. It's the Artsy Umbrella, which is a local store in Berkeley, Michigan here. But they have a different business model, and that is I just rent a shelf space. So my sales are my sales, and it's like I'm renting a little room there to display my products, and I pay them rent every month. I like that. I would do that. But I don't want to sell bottles of hot sauce very inexpensively and have someone charge more for them and have to make 50 times more to provide it to get it out on shelves. So this has worked out great. So 2 years ago, to answer your question in a long narrative, I fired it back up, and we started marketing it directly, and that's how we do it. It's worked out great, and I love it. I'm having a great time, and fun, can be creative and put it in people's hands, and they love it. And I love to hear that.
Yeah, because I think when we talked to him as 2 years ago, I was wondering what has changed or what have you kind of learned along the way since the first time we chatted.
It's not so much the learning. I mean, I know enough about it, but I mean, again, not to keep going back to social media, but that is a learning experience, and that is a major way to get your product in front of people. So from that aspect, that is something that I've tried to learn more about, focus more on, and I don't know near enough. I've got product ambassadors, if you will, and you've talked about that. You say, and you were kind of down on it, I think. You would say, oh, so you give people free shit and they put your brand out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and that is a way of doing it. But the guys that I have chosen to represent Way Hot Sauce, I call them the Way Hot Badassadors instead of product ambassadors.
Yeah.
Badassadors, and these guys they're cooks and grillers and barbecue dudes, and they like the finer things. They like bourbon and beer and things that I like. So we have a commonality there, and it's a group of friends. These guys are true friends. Went out to Texas for the Fiery Foods Challenge, and one of the guys, Matt Rose at Girl Dad Grills is his account. He lives out there, so he says, "Hey, I'll come down," and we're face to face now. It's not just DMing each other or seeing each other's posts or him saying, "Hey, try Way Hot Sauce out. It's awesome." And the other thing about it is these guys aren't fake. They really do like the stuff. I chose those guys because they were customers first. Guys that bought the sauce and sent me messages and said, "Best stuff out there. I really love it, man. Like, keep doing what you're doing." So then I would go to them. They didn't approach me. I went to them and said, "Hey, if you're interested, I'll send you a few bottles, use it on occasion." And that's the arrangement. And no requirements. There's not a bunch of corporate restrictions on them or requirements even. It's just now and again, make a taco and throw some Way Hot Sauce on it and post it up. And they do, and it's really cool. It helps out. It gets the word out.
Well, I think that's kind of that mom and pop vintage style that I like, which is not necessarily about quantity, but more about the value of it. Like, I mean, I could easily get famous people on, but it wouldn't be the good content of the conversation. It would kind of be more interviewee style when rather than just a free flow of like see where it kind of goes, which I think I value more because it creates a better listening experience and more of a funner time. So the time goes by quick. But when you're picking a brand, for instance, now if you're a giant corporation, you end up becoming like Walmart. You have a bunch of employees and don't know their names or their birthdays. But when you, for instance, are friends with these ambassadors, that's a different way of how I view that then because you're not necessarily just being like, hey, yeah, I got a million ambassadors. It's like, but how many of those guys do you know? And then you name like five people. But you, for instance, you're like, I know my ambassadors, I'm friends with them. And then the relationship has grown from there. They know who I am. It's not a Mr. Way hot sauce. It's you as a person. And that's what I like the experience of because I think we all know those people that'll slide into the DMs. And that's weird is that 5 years ago or 4 years ago, there was not a giant thing of social influencers. Now that's like a really huge thing where people will just follow you, message you as soon as they follow you and say, hey, I've been following your page for a while. I would love to, rep your brand. And it's like, no, what are you talking about? Like that's something that goes in the request bin or the secondary messaging bin because they don't need they just want free things and then they're going to say they're going to promote it, but how much return do you get off of that rather than a friend who actually enjoys your product, wants to make fun things with it? Like if I was going to do advertisements, they could give me a script, but I want to read it how if I'm going to sell sex dolls, I want to sell them how I would sell sex dolls. And I don't even think you need to sell them. That's not something you need to advertise. But it's the experience of you're essentially, when you pick an ambassador, it is repping your product, but it's also it's the person as well too. And I think that brings value into something, because how many things now is just about getting the name or getting the brand out there, which is important at the start. But what I noticed from taking the Facebook or Instagram, like kind of when it went down, was I was putting up a post once a day, which I do, but when that went down, I still uploaded my content and got the same viewership. So nobody needed to like be like, did he post, or check for my post to see if there's a new episode? They just knew it was going to be there. And I'm like, I like that better, because now there's not a reliance on me to post. And I'm like, that's what you got to do. You got to be reliant that your product is something people enjoy, rather than just them getting free stuff. Because that's what it ends up becoming, is people just, and I mean, I can't blame them if you can get free whatever, but I don't even eat hot sauce anymore, and I still talk to you. Like, I haven't had hot sauce in fucking months because I just medically
That
can't.
hurts my feelings. Doesn't hurt my feelings you're not eating way hot sauce, but just hot sauce in general that you're not eating, that hurts my feelings. You need to get back to it.
I got your bottle
I
sitting on
think
my shelf, man. You're the first person to make me an out of the blank sauce. I think it said something about when Robbie Robertson fires up the mic, it'll something explode. It was great, dude. But the detail in that thing is what I really appreciate about you, because you actually care and you put the time into a lot of things that you do. And I think in this day and age now, there's not a lot of things like that that have a sense of character. I'm thinking it's going to make a comeback, but the sense of pride in your workmanship, or just the sense of actually, like, there's a lot of terms about grinding. Okay, grinding is like fast paced and it's kind of mushing things up and like kind of destroying it a little bit. It's not really, everyone wants this fast pace right now, and that's how society's going. But I want to see the shift back where we actually care about the content of things too. People say, "Oh, it's made in Japan. Made in Japan. It's cheap. It's cheap." But when you want something strong, like an old school, like American muscle car, where it's just, if you get in a car accident, it's the other thing that you hit is going to be in trouble, because that car is all metal. Now they're made of plastic.
that's funny. And jumping back real quick, thank you for discerning between people that just want free stuff and someone that truly likes your stuff and wants to put it out in front of people because they like it. There is a big difference. And back when you had said that, I was getting hit up by it was ridiculous, I don't know, 10 people a day. And I think it has to do with your following. Someone looks and says, "Oh, this is like a startup. They don't have too many followers. I can get in and get this guy to give me free stuff and then never really do anything. I just get free stuff." But as you build a following, maybe more people look at that and say, like, yeah, it's like going to PepsiCo and saying, I don't know, they probably have 1 million followers, and saying, "Hey, will you send me some free Pepsi?" It's like you're not hearing back from them. It's not worth your time to do something like that. And I think that could be why I don't get so many of those anymore. They do come through on occasion, but not like that. But there's a difference. So
Well, there's just value in, I think, when you're friends with someone, you actually know people on like an actual communicative level, which is more like in person. If someone would come up to you and be like, "I really like your stuff. I would love to have it in my store, have it in my shop or whatever." Then you kind of get to a basis of how the person, you get the vibe with them, see if there's like a good like sense of like, oh yeah, we can actually probably have a beer together or something like that. It's that type of relationship. But social media doesn't offer that. And sadly, that's what it's been diminished down into. And I'm wondering, like, I mean, we took a lot of time off during this pandemic of just being shut down and everything, and not being able to go anywhere. Then you saw people go back to bars. You saw people go and not give a shit anymore, go to the beach, go do whatever they want and go live their life. Disneyland opened back up, amusement parks opened back up, everything opened back up. You would think that that would bring back a sense of wholeness of like, hey, maybe we should just start doing more in-person things. Like, I guarantee you in the next couple of years, maybe in the next year or so, we'll start seeing in-person dating again, like actually meeting somebody at a place and then getting to hang out with them or go on a date and then hopefully get laid later. But it's gonna take away from the app, because I think a lot of people don't necessarily like the whole apps process now. Before it was like swipe, swipe, swipe. Now it's kind of like there was an app recently that just came out that was pretty cool. What happened was is you would talk to the person, and as the more you talk to them, the more you guys connected, the picture would slowly start getting unblurry so you could see who the person was. And I was like, that's a
Yeah.
great fucking thing, because then you're liking the person's character over liking the person's looks. Now, essentially, I don't know. Maybe when you see the full picture, you're like, oh shit. But at the same time, that's a great idea, because I think it really brings things back to the base level of communication. I mean, if we disagree upon things, I think those things that we disagree upon will probably be some of the strongest things that bolster our relationship. But everything has made it so easy now where you're only going to see things that you like, see things that you agree with, rather than seeing the other perspective of things. I mean, if we talk about, like, you brought up ex-President Trump, are they going to let him back on social media? Are they going to, like,
Yeah.
this Facebook whistleblower, this whoever was talking about how the Capitol Hill, all this type of stuff? These algorithms are set up in a way to make you keep finding more content like this. My example that I just found out recently was I watched a horse kill an alligator. It stomped right on its fucking head, and it was amazing. I loved every second of it. But I was like, I never knew a horse could kill an alligator. But then this horse killing an alligator led me into alligator videos, which led me into a person eventually being killed by an alligator by falling into an alligator pit. And I'm like, this algorithm is taking you down these dark rabbit holes where this might create an era of depression. This might just only create your certain tribe mindset that everyone's trying to eliminate, is like not being a part of the tribe or only being a part of the tribe. We got to kind of eliminate that to open up. I mean, we all have what we like and we all have what we dislike, but you're never going to truly understand what you dislike until you can actually talk to it, be around it. You can't just eliminate it from your field of view. It's kind of like you turn off the lights because you know you got cockroaches. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Right. Well, jumping back to dating apps, do you have the same girlfriend? You haven't told me. You haven't mentioned it lately.
I'm very
You
single.
dating? What's that?
I'm very single.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
All right, ladies. There he is, Mr. Robbie Robertson,
If you want a kid, let me
available.
know.
Yeah, and now tell me too about these paintings. When did you just one day grabbed an easel and a canvas and said, I'm going to start painting? I went and bought some paints. What is up with that?
I had a lot of, because I have a family member that paints, so I have a lot of canvases at my house. And then I was just like,
Oh,
I saw the Bob Ross documentary, and I was like, it can't be that easy because he makes it seem so easy. And then I started doing it, and I was like, even if it's not that good, but art is subjective, so some of them might look good depending on what you like. I joined a couple Facebook groups about Bob Ross paintings, and then I'm seeing, like, first of all, like 7-year-olds that are painting mountains and landscapes that I would be like, that would take me ages. But it's more like a freeing thing of it too. And I think that's when I truly let that into my life. I now appreciate art. I mean, I still appreciated everything. I don't think there's ever a bad movie. There's movies I don't really appreciate. Like if you watch the Fauci documentary on Disney, fucking whatever. It's really weird. Rotten Tomatoes made it so you can't comment on it. And that's what I was like, because you know you're gonna get some shit. But I've really started to appreciate art a lot more. And that boils down to everything, even the essentials of creating hot sauce. I mean, this is a process that comes from your mind. It's essentially your baby. I mean, anybody that says that this art is bad or art is good or art is this and this art's better than that, you might have a certain preference, but all art is fucking amazing. Whether it's a podcast I want to listen to or a podcast I don't want to listen to, whether it's a movie I want to watch or a movie I don't want to watch, you know, once you can truly appreciate that, like I started cutting out the social media because social media isn't art. Social media lets you see more art, sure, but the whole process of social media to me just started being different in comparison to an actual art in front of me or a type of creation or creative method. I like the ideas that when you start up a company or something, or when you start telling about when it started, the processes of giving it up and then getting back into it. I like that stuff because it shows me how your brain works. I think that boils down to a deeper part of your character, which a lot of people don't really see. They just see the logo, they see your profile picture, and they see your bio, and then they see your products on your site. But you're a guy who created a sauce that was called, was it Pink Taco?
Pink taco sauce.
What
Yeah,
the
that's
fuck are we talking? That's awesome. Like, I want to know where that idea came from. That's the stuff that I appreciate, that I don't really necessarily want to see in a documentary, but I want to see it firsthand. I want to see that unfold because it's like another layer of the onion that gets peeled back.
yeah, that's cool. I mean, maybe a lot of people won't agree with this, but to a point, art and social media, that's not a thing. I mean, in that, if you put just to put your painting up there, you throw it on Instagram with no comments. You don't caption it.
I do.
No, I'm saying if you did this, you put a painting up there and you didn't caption it. I don't know what you get, but you get, there are assholes out there. There are haters. They're like, who did this? Your son? There's something rotten, where you just go like, why do you have to do that? I mean, I guess there's critics in art, but social media isn't the place to be critiqued. Where I don't know, someone that doesn't have any knowledge of you or what you're doing makes a rotten comment on it. I mean, I don't think I get any rotten comments on my Way Hot Sauce posts, but I'm sure they could be there. Someone could say like, this shit looks like garbage or whatever. I mean, anyone can put anything out there they want, but, and I do see cool art on Instagram and it's cool to see it, but it's rotten to see people bash it because they don't know the artist. I mean, it's your thing. It's whatever you make it, and someone else should not make negative commentary on it. And that it's more prevalent to see a hater on social media saying something about something they know nothing about. Yeah.
Have you ever
That's all I got to say about that.
have you ever got a bad comment, or have you ever had a bad experience with someone through your sauce?
I haven't. Honest to goodness, it's maybe that's a rare thing, I would think, but I think the worst thing that anyone's ever said, and look, it's the one thing that I remember because it's the one negative thing that I can recall, and it's not so bad. Someone put a review on Amazon and said, this is too expensive for the size bottle it is. I went through it in a day. It's like, I mean,
Jesus
Christ. Yeah, is that
Christ.
negative? Yes, it's negative, but it's positive too. If you went through it in a day, it was good, right? You must have liked it. But they were, I mean, making a negative comment about the price of it. Well, the price is the price based on Amazon. Again, when you're dealing with a platform to sell something on, they get a cut, like you had mentioned. So, and there's postage involved, and Amazon will send it out, but they charge the postage to you. So you adjust the price accordingly. I mean, everything is going up, right? There's a supply shortage now. You got postage just recently went up again.
Yeah.
Post office will they will ratchet prices up to the point where, I mean, if I didn't have to charge for postage, I could cut the price of my product as I sell it by more than 30%, maybe 40%. So that, all of that is taken into consideration, but everything's going up, man. Like the prices of everything, gas, there's no truck drivers, there's few shipping containers. So everyone charges more and they pass it on to us.
I had to go to my post office yesterday because I guess they try to deliver I ordered vape coils, and I ordered three. My vape coils in my tank right here they're discontinued. They don't make the coils anymore. So when I have to go and find them on a site, my local store doesn't sell them, so I have to order them online. And I got it. It was about $10 a pack of three. So I was like, I'll get 3 packs. Should be 30 something dollars. Then with shipping or something, should be like $39 or $40 if I don't get like 2-day shipping or something. I'll get like a week or whatever the standard is. Dude, it was 50 something bucks. They added like $16 in like shipping, and then they also added a $5 adult signature fee because you have to be over 18 to get these. I'm like, oh fucking A. So apparently they went to deliver at
Crazy.
my house and I didn't hear anybody knock. I guess they just stayed in their car and then just said, "Oh, I guess we missed you." So it got returned to the facility and I walk in there and I'm doing all these things. I'm like, I was like, how much is it? Like if I'm going to ship a small, cause I'm going to paint you something. I got canvases. I'm like, how much is it if I'm going to ship this, like maybe a little small, little like painting thing? And they go, well, how much? It's going to be based on weight. And I'm like, yeah, but if it's like light, maybe less than a pound, how much would that be shipped for? And if I was going to ship it to wherever, and they're like, I mean, average cost probably $35. I was like, for that, like, yeah, it's size and
All
weight.
right.
I'm like, but how, when does it actually get there though? Because I'm noticing, especially if you're shipping hot sauce, their delivery times either doesn't show up before, it never showed up. Remember, I showed you that video of that FedEx truck during when the pandemic, everything opened back up. The guy
Yeah,
was driving and the fucking door was open and packages were all over the street. I was like, is this your hot sauce? Like, we
that is
joked
funny.
about it, but you start to notice like the now if they say it's going to be more delayed, it's going to cost more money. It's like you guys didn't really, and I get it because I'm not going to shame the post office, but it makes it more difficult to be able to get a product and create that reliability with a customer. If someone has a bad shipping or ordering experience, maybe the cost is low enough and it actually costs you more to ship it. Then you get everything set off and then it's in their hands. You're basically praying to God that everyone does their job correctly. And hopefully one guy isn't delivering your product, gets in a fight with his ex-wife or whoever on a phone call, then decides to drive a truck off a fucking bridge. And then you lost your customer because they're like, well, that product never showed up to me. And it's like, that wasn't your fault though. That's their fault now.
Yeah. I mean, things have definitely gotten better, but back then, when you sent that picture to me, things were really terrible. And I think you sent me another picture, if you remember, of a package just laying in the
Yeah.
bush
Yeah.
somewhere, totally not related to the truck with the back door open. But I don't know how many packages I sent out back then. I mean, that was kind of in the heart of the pandemic that never got to the destination. You look at the tracking number and it's gone. And I would call the post office and they're like, yeah, I mean, we're really short-handed right now, so hopefully it'll arrive someday. I, no, I mean, packages were just gone and they disappeared or they took, you're paying for 2 or 3 day priority mail and they take like 3 weeks to get there. I mean, it's absurd. But yeah, without shipping, there's no way to get your product out there. And you're right, you're kind of throwing it out there on a wing and a prayer saying, I hope this gets there because you're putting it in other people's hands. And you don't know if a guy is going to drive a truck off a bridge.
Do you think they'd be
Definite
more?
possibility.
Do you think they'd be more liable if you were able to actually sue the post office? Like, I'm not incentivizing suing the post office, but they make it so it's not their fault. So then it's just kind of
Yeah.
up in the air.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be lawsuits abound, or people would get to the point that I got to. It's some juncture. I just said, people would say, you can go to the post office and file a claim. You paid for insurance. And I do. It's not, I mean, I'm not going to go to the post office to try to get an $11 package replaced. It's just not worth my time or energy. So, and again, what are you going to sue them for? $11? I'm sure you could, that would be a great model to have them accountable in some way. But I mean, sure, if someone's shipping something worth, $250,000 and it disappears, you definitely think you'd want to bring up a suit against them if they couldn't track down your package. But for me, you just say, yeah, it's the cost of doing business. And again, I've got to incorporate it into the cost of the product, right? All these things are taken into account. I mean, any businesses that are selling things are for profit, right? They're not for profit businesses. So I'm not, the Way Hot Sauce Company is fun and it is a creative outlet for me, like your painting is for you. And I have a lot of fun doing it. But would I do it for free? Maybe I would. I don't know. I certainly wouldn't pass out bottles to the masses, but to give it to friends or family, people like that, it is fun for me and it's satisfying to have people use something that I've made and enjoy it. But the flip side of that is I'm not doing that. I am a company and I'm selling it, and I'm selling it to make a little bit of money, right? I'm trying to make a profit. That's what a company does. Otherwise, you go out of business. And so all of those things have to be taken into account when I'm coming up with a price for something. What's the shipping? Will it be lost? How many will I have to ship? I'll have to ship it to the guy and then ship another one, because I always do that. If someone gets a hold of me and says, I never got this, or I got it and it's broken, I ship another one. I don't charge them for it. But that's the cost of doing business. It's the way it goes.
Yeah, and that kind of phases out, like we were talking about before, of the small business owner, because you look at the corporations. Like I had a friend of mine order some supplements, like for working out, and they got a
Yeah.
purse from Amazon, and they're like, "What the fuck? Like, I didn't order a purse. I ordered supplements." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, you can keep that. You don't need to ship it back. We'll just send you your product that you ordered." And it's like, you there's that big of a corporation that they don't have to worry about the return or the cost or anything like that. They don't care, because they're probably making so much off of the product that they tell you is this much, but it's really way less. But we look
Yeah.
at like the hot sauce, for instance. You're trying to maintain a relationship and a positive outcome with this person. You're like, I'll ship you another bottle because I'm sorry yours got broken. That comes out of your pocket, and then it kind of phases out the whole idea of making your self-owned business, because they don't make it easy for you to be able to do so. I mean, I'm the type of person, if I ship a package, I'll text you every day to make sure it fucking arrives. But maybe it's just easier if we had the Star Trek like kind of teleporters where we could just shove it in there, and then it's going to get to the person. Because I'm the type that, even if when I ship you this painting or whatever that I'm going to do, still got to work on it. Um, I want to make sure it gets to you. And if it gets lost, then it's like, well, that's a lot of hard work and effort I put into making that. It's not like I can make a batch and then put them in multiple different bottles to ship out. That's a
Yeah.
fucking, and it's a tasking process too, but it's the same thing when you create something. It's like if your kid's missing, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, damn it, I don't know where it's at. And it's that idea of finding it and hoping it gets to the place it's supposed to get there, because you're essentially, it's like when they're 18 and they leave off to school, it's out of your hands now. And then that's what has to kind of upset you the most, because for so long it is a part of you, it is a part of your hands, and then now it's gone.
Well put. Yeah, that is true. I mean, if for something like a painting like that would be heartbreaking, right? Something you're not going to be able to paint the exact same thing. It's a one of a kind item, and then you ship it and it gets lost or destroyed. I mean, that is far worse than a bottle of broken hot sauce. But
It would be
yeah,
really it would be really fucked up if someone took it and then put it in an art gallery and they got famous off it. I'm like, that's my fucking art. I'm not that good at all. Like, I'm not good at all, but I think it's the enthusiasm that really counts in it. Because if you see my face while I'm doing it, I either look really pissed off or I look really, really like excited. Because I'm like, I hate the process. Like, I give anybody the amount of credit if it takes, like, people go like, it takes me weeks to edit a podcast. I'm like, oh Jesus, if I had to do that, it's just the task. I hate the task, but once it's complete, I'm happy as shit. I'm like, it actually looks pretty fucking good.
yeah. You need to start like dipping your thumb in paint and putting it on the corner, because if someone uh, ganks one of your pictures and hangs it in an art gallery, you probably would say like, that's mine, and they say, prove it, and you go, I'm serious, I painted that, and they'll say, no, but if your thumbprint's on it, they're not going to be able to do that.
That's smart as shit. I thought about putting my name in the bottom of it, because like that's the one thing the Bob Ross documentary teaches you, is that his son was like, there's a lot of fake Ross things out there. It's like, how can you tell? It's like, well, only his son and then I think his best friend that Bob used to paint with all the time are the only two people that know the subtle differences between a Bob Ross painting and a non-authentic one. And it's like something about, like, he leaves us something like some type of message in the thing or some type of style that he does that no one else can really see. Kind of like when you pull out like a secret message out of something, you're like, oh, that's our
Yeah.
secret code. He left that into his paintings that they could easily tell if it isn't or is. And they're the only two that distinguish that. And I'm like, that's got to be a close group of people that know that distinguished tell and be able to verify it. Because I mean, it's got to feel awesome to have someone try and replicate and sell, but it's also taking your image as well too, which is kind of like loses character. But man, it's just so crazy because if you get down to the fame aspect of things, there are people that just want what you have, or they want whatever that sliver of that light is of that you are really in. And that's what gets nuts. It's like if you see somebody, imagine somebody taking your way hot sauce and then putting your brand or your label on their hot sauce that they made. Now you got to hope
Right.
that this person did a good job at their recipe, and then maybe there won't be any harm, any foul. But imagine if they just ruin the brand by just stamping it above some Tabasco sauce or something like that.
Yeah, that that can definitely happen. There are people out there trying to get over all the time, so it's a possibility. Hey, you mentioned a friend ordered supplements. You still working out?
Every day.
Man, this guy is ripped, folks.
Going on 10
Ripped.
years. 10 years.
Man, crazy. That's dedication. It's like that, like putting a podcast out a day and working out every day. Man, what do you have time for?
I didn't
Your
I didn't
schedule's got to be
I didn't
booked
sleep.
up.
I didn't sleep last night because that fucking fire alarm. It's still going off. I hope it's not. Is the mic picking it up?
I don't hear it.
Okay.
I don't hear it.
I just cycled from like 10 o'clock all the way until like 4 a.m. and then I went into work, and then I enjoy it, man.
So
You gotta
now we've discerned you're single and ripped and an artist. So
you're trying to get me
man,
laid.
this is good. Yeah, we'll work on it.
I think like everyone works at their own pace, and depending, like you can't really examine your value compared to the pace of someone else's. And I think that's one thing I've really started to take away kind of from life in general, is that like I've heard a lot of people talk about it all kind of works out in a way. And I think that's 100% true. But I think you work at the pace that you feel like you need to be working at. I mean, even coming up on 1,000 episodes, for instance, that's a lot of fucking like episodes. But it's also the pace that I can work at. Same thing for you, like being on social media or being able to gain a following or being able to create your business or make your products or do the moves that you can do that maybe a lot of people might necessarily not be able to do. I can't examine my life based on yours. You can't examine your life based on mine. But if you really feel like every single day is another adventure and it's another thing that you can kind of get into and feel like you've accomplished something, then that's accomplishment. I mean, I fucking hate the motivational like shit where it's like you gotta hustle. What are you doing? It's because you're not doing shit. And it's like, man, I feel like you're doing as much as you can be. And if you feel like you can be doing more, then do more. But you can't judge it off some person that's making 10, like Elon Musk. I think that's why he pisses everyone off, is because he's making billions of dollars a minute. And they're all just sitting there like, why can't I do that? It's like, well, you got to work at your own pace. A diamond isn't like just made, it's created under pressure. You got to get going.
That's right. I try to not to be. I've had to try to not to be too hard on myself. I go to bed every night and I lay there and I gauge, did I get enough done today? And sometimes, it's thinking, I didn't get enough done today. Like I should have done more. But at some point, you have to tell yourself, like, man, you're redlining this thing. I'm doing everything I can. I'm working as hard as I can in all aspects of my life. If certainly not every day, but if there are days, a couple days during the week where you laid back and maybe didn't get everything you needed to get done, not to be so hard on yourself about it. That's what I had to tell myself, because I'm hard on myself about it. I will go to bed and think, I should have done this, or I should have done that. Maybe I should just get up now and do it. And then I'm with you up all night.
I like that, man. I think there's a lot of stuff where I've talked to plenty of people, historians, and talk about this identity crisis of trying to find yourself. And I'm like, I think it's because you're looking in all the wrong places. Necessarily, the place you might need to find yourself might be in the room that you're in, not necessarily on the app that you're using, or might not necessarily be on some type of avenue or adventure. I think when people give up on things, if it's hard to tell if it's for you because you might not be seeing the progress that you want. And I'm like, well, if you really appreciate doing it, if you really enjoy what's going on with what you're doing, you're going to love doing it, and you're not going to care if it's going to have some, I mean, obviously the goal is to become whatever you want it to become or whatever, so maybe you don't have to pay bills. But man, minutes happy compared to minutes of money made. It really sucks that society's built on the fact that you have to use money to survive. Like if it was based on a person's happiness, it's like really strange, because how much content of me is out on like this is like, if they're going to create an AI, all they need to do is look at all my podcasts and then create an AI. But I'm like, is that going to be the AI that would be recognizable by my own family? And for what I've done with my show is I've portrayed myself in my show, much like you can portray yourself in the work that you do. If the work that you do, if they made a spinning image of yourself based on the work that you've done, would it be the same version of you that your family would be able to notice, and not notice that there was a difference between you and that thing that was created in the image of you? And I think that's what you have to do, because that's where you're going to see your most success, is when you're the most authentic, when you're the most truly you into something that you really truly appreciate doing.
I think that is well put. A lot of good points you've made over this episode.
I'm a genius.
How's your mom?
I don't want
How's
to
your
talk
mom?
about that. No, we're not
No?
doing that. We're not doing that one.
Come on, this is conversation.
It's
Out of
a
the blank
conversation
podcast,
to
baby.
the end real quick. David, dude, I know it's a spontaneous spur of the moment thing of doing a podcast, but it was first Sunday actually. I got off work. I was like, we're doing this now. I'm not going to bed. We're kicking right into it. And I appreciate you for joining me again, and at least coming close to 1,000 episodes too. It's been too long. Hopefully we can find another Sunday to get you on sooner. I'd like to have you back on again once the 1,000 kicks up. But where can people find the amazing Way Hot Sauce Company, the sauce that'll burn your biscuits, burn your buns, and burn your tongue?
We've got that one. We've got one to do that. Getwayhot.com is the website. Getwayhot.com. At Way Hot Sauce on all social media platforms. Easy to find. We're out there.
And is there anything you want to let the audience know before we wrap up the show?
Oh man, thanks. Thanks for having me on. Unshowered, spur of the moment. Crazy. I like your message. Get cleaned up. What do you say? Make yourself pretty. No, see you in 15 minutes.
See you in 15.
Yeah, man. It's cool. I love what you do, and people should check you out. That's my message.
You're trying to get me
Check
laid
out
throughout this episode.
We'll get that done. Don't worry. Check out Out of the Blank podcast, man. This man's got it going.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank. Stay tuned for our next episode.